Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sabrina Rising, and I'm a self-mastery coach, and I have been facilitating inner peace for many years. I'm here today to talk to you about spirituality, doing inner work, and mood-altering substances. This is a question I get all the time in my one-on-one containers and in my group classes and all of my work with clients over the years. This question comes up over and over and over again. Is it safe for me to indulge in mood altering substances while I'm doing inner work? So, healing and mood altering substances don't mix. They just don't. Now, I'm not, of course, referring to any type of prescription medication that you're taking under the supervision of a medical professional that is serving a purpose in your life. We all have different pain. We all have different brain chemistry. We all have different issues that we might be struggling with. For the most part, I would say that if you can safely be off any medication whatsoever without causing harm to yourself, without, having major consequences if the consequences are so big that you cannot find your center and find the inner resources to stabilize yourself, even with a guide and in the container, of inner work or of a process or a modality that you might be participating in, that is probably best that you stay on whatever it is that you're taking. Today's video is really about those of us that have a choice, that are able to stay sober. We can choose to drink or not drink. We can choose to smoke or not smoke. We can choose to take pain medication or not take pain medication. I'm really talking about things that are accessible, over the counter, that, our society is so inclined to indulge in. Right now, keep in mind that this all relates to how we cope with our uncomfortable emotions. The root of all suffering, honestly, is really just the unwillingness to sit in our uncomfortable emotions and learn how to cope with them constructively. Okay. So this tendency to want to avoid or escape or numb or medicate or hurry up and deal with whatever's uncomfortable is part of why we create long-term symptoms of a much deeper cause or condition that's just not really being looked at. So you may have had certain symptoms for a while and you think to yourself, well, my neck pain has turned into headaches, has turned into muscle stiffness, has turned into indigestion and stomach pain, and symptoms kind of build upon each other, especially as we start to lean into mood altering substances to create relief, a sense of relief. And now, again, I'm talking about mental pain, physical pain, emotional pain, and these are also connected to each other. Okay. In fact, by the time we have physical symptoms, it's usually because there is a belief system in place that has created a certain set of emotions, reactions that are unresolved. Unresolved emotions will eventually turn into physical symptoms. And so when people come to inner work, one of the first questions I get asked is, can I drink? Can I drink alcohol? And my next question is, why do you need to? Right. So, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the choices that you're making. This is not meant to sound moral or diminishing in any way. Just be aware that the more that you tamper with your brain chemistry, and in which is what mood altering substances do. They change our brain chemistry. They change the way that we experience ourselves. They change our behaviors. They change our choices. They influence our choices rather. And so the more you do that, the less you're capable of really getting to the causes and conditions, of really being able to go deep within yourself so that you can start processing and start feeling. So I always invite people to pause, take a break from drinking, take a break from, if you're smoking, especially if you're smoking cigarettes. Of course, I would advocate for you to quit, because the smoke, and I am an ex-smoker, so I have no judgments. The smoking, especially for me, I'll speak from my own experience, was a way for me to just take a pause and take a deep breath and really have some space and some time for myself, which I wasn't allowing myself to have at that time in my life. And, think about sucking back smoke and sucking back your feelings, right? Think about drinking alcohol and numbing, right? Or perhaps you're engaging in, romantic ideas or fantasies or dreams that are not really realistic, right? So think about the way that mood altering substances affect you. And when we are engaging in these substances, our bodies, our physical bodies, are spending all of their energy trying to transmute and detox and alchemize the toxicity of these substances before it can actually get itself back to center, right? So before it can bring itself back to sort of ground zero of feeling and processing emotions and being clear and being tuned into your intuition. And that's another thing that mood altering substances do. They really interfere with our ability to have access to our own inner knowing and to trust ourselves. And this is fundamental. When we are drinking, smoking, getting high, indulging in, prescription medication when it's not necessarily treating an illness that can otherwise not be managed without it. When we are, overdosing on over-the-counter pain meds like Advil and Tylenol and things like that, when you don't really need to, it's really important to check a couple things. So number one, why am I leaning into this substance? What is the intention behind my usage? Okay, so always get honest with yourself. And this requires some humility, and it requires a willingness to take a hard look at yourself and say, okay, what is motivating me to do this, right? Is it because it's what my friends are doing? Is it because there's an enjoyment factor? Is it because it's a social thing? Is it because it's a habitual thing? Keep in mind that the things that you've done over time have created neural pathways in your brain and established certain patterns of behavior. So changing those takes a minute. It takes willingness. It takes awareness. It takes the courage to start to develop equanimity around your cravings so that you're not being so you don't have to succumb to them. You can actually learn to have sovereignty over your cravings and choose differently. So this is going to require some inner work. It's going to require putting structures in place, some accountability, and also a strong desire to learn to live sober. And that means interfacing with some of the uncomfortable emotions that chances are you've been stuffing down for a while. Even if you just do, engage socially, if it's a regular thing, it's probably numbing you, dulling you, and medicating you in a very subtle way that you may not necessarily be conscious of. Okay. And we only become aware of how much better we feel, how much more clear we feel, how much more open we are to being able to experience the fullness of our human life, our human experience, our feelings, our thoughts, and whatever it is that is, coming up to the surface as we're doing inner work. But we also start to, our brains feel better. Our skin looks better. We start to sleep better, right? Your body is not busy spending the entire night detoxing from mood altering substances. It can actually start to now release the contents of the subconscious mind because it starts to feel safe, and in an effort to help you work through your issues, whatever they are, in your waking life. Okay. So it's really important. And, I say this to all my clients: when we stop engaging in mood altering substances and we really make a decision to sit and be with our own energy and take personal responsibility for the quality of our state, our emotions, our pain, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, or mental anguish, ruminating thoughts. I can't even tell you the amount of people that I work with that say, oh, I have anxiety and I take stuff for anxiety because otherwise I can't function. We don't have anxiety. We have an unwillingness to feel the deeper feelings that are bubbling up to the surface, right? We're terrified of learning to live without this substance that is numbing us from whatever pain isn't really being addressed directly. And the longer we ignore it, the harder it is to sit with it. So, it's very important that we realize that when we are indulging in these substances, your soul, your inner self, higher self, cannot feel safe in your physical body. You don't feel safe. You don't trust yourself. We feel ungrounded. We feel rudderless, especially when it comes to how do we process life. We need these substances. We become so reliant on these externals that we don't have a relationship with ourselves. And so, this over time becomes very, very complicated, right? It creates so many layers of unresolved emotions and issues with self and issues with our physical body as well. Keep in mind that so many mood altering substances do have physical consequences over the long term. Alcohol affects every part of every organ in the body. Okay. Prescription medication even has an effect on our liver, our stomach, our esophagus, our, lower digestive system, so many things, right? So I'm a huge advocate for the belief that everything that we need to heal ourselves exists in nature. It exists in nature. Start to maybe look at some alternative remedies for some of the things that you can treat yourself topically, or some of the conditions that are relatively benign, or even as a preventative thing, right? Focus on building up your immune system rather than treating symptoms. And one way that we can build up our immune system is by learning to process our unresolved emotions. You would be amazed how healthier and more vibrant and much more vitality we have access to once we learn to feel our feelings and let go of fear, especially anger, resentment, bitterness, hatred, all of those lower vibrational frequencies that are highly toxic. When we learn to resolve anger internally, all of a sudden we become healthier, right? And I've helped clients over the years deal with cancer, deal with liver stuff, stomach issues, gallbladder issues. Every organ tells a story about the emotions that you're holding on to and what it is that we need to be able to sit with and work through so that we can fully let go. We can fully process our emotions and heal. The emotions are so powerful, and the energy that we're holding on to is the energy that we learn to express. Our bodies express. Our belief system is influencing every cell in the body. And so it's really important that we shift that belief. If you believe that you can't fall asleep without sleep medication, then you can't fall asleep without sleep medication, right? This is a perfect example. There's a conversation I have all the time. And so if you change the belief that you can fall asleep easily and deeply and wake up refreshed in the morning, when we start to program the subconscious mind to believe that, and there's very many different techniques to do that, which I can talk about in another video, your cells will shift and the belief system will start to inform the cells, and the cells will start to cooperate with you. Okay. But there has to be a willingness. There has to be a willingness to wean off the sleep medication and to be uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable means that you're going to have to deal with some really gnarly feelings, like it could be angst, it could be frustration, it could be many sleepless nights. But as we create this context that being in our natural energy, unstimulated, unaltered energy is how we're meant to live. And so recalibrating back to that, as I mentioned earlier, that sort of reset point where you're now clear and you're experiencing all of the emotions, you're going to first start to experience the body's detoxing symptoms, and that can feel uncomfortable. If you're willing to sit through the discomfort of weaning yourself off of whatever it is that you're dabbling in, and of course, if you need more help, if you're having, if you're a relationship to mood altering substances is making your life powerless, if it's something you're doing all the time and you can't stop, then there's obviously a need for more help. There's a need for a much higher, much more powerful level of consciousness, level of awareness to be able to stop those behaviors. Of course, get the help you need to be able to abstain so that you can clear your body, clear your mind, and then eventually deal with the underlying causes and conditions, which are almost always emotional. And of course, this doesn't really apply to, this video is not about, if you're doing psychedelics or if you're doing plant medicine journeys, if that's the kind of thing that you're engaging in order to interact with your inner child, or to, transcend certain limiting beliefs or deal with your fears and so on. I advocate for you to find a responsible guide who can lead you with integrity and who can bring you into those spaces and help you integrate your experience, because I have also seen many, many clients over the years come back to me after experiences like that, feeling more fractured and more confused than they were going in. So it's very, very important. Personally am a purist. I believe that if you are on a path to healing yourself, you have all of the inner resources available to you, along with the willingness and the courage and the power to overcome your symptoms, whatever they are. And I have personally healed myself from many, many different symptoms, physical, emotional, and psychological. And I can tell you that, I'm whole, perfect, and complete, right? And the things that I have learned to transcend required a lot of patience, a lot of love, asking for support, and a lot of trust, not only in myself, but in my practice. Okay. And there's, of course, there are so many tools that we can learn to help us, regulate our nervous system, to help us get our needs met for nurturing, for rest, for support, for balance, for health and vitality. I always advocate for clean diets. Not all human beings are meant to eat the same. We each have our own unique constitution. So it's important that you get the guidance and the advice that's required in order for you to understand what that is for you personally. And then move. You have to move your body, right? This is another thing that I teach. It's amazing. We can't just do inner work and process emotions. We have to move energy. There's 3 ways to move energy really responsibly, and that's breath, movement, and sound. So engaging in one or all 3 of those practices on a regular basis will help you relieve some of the uncomfortable symptoms that you might be experiencing. And then, of course, I'm a huge fan of developing equanimity, which is the ability to observe what's going on and not do anything about it, not really do any, not try to change it, fix it, or numb it, or make it feel better. Just learning to observe the pain, the discomfort that you're having, and learning to be at peace with it. We develop a level of tolerance, we develop a level of integration of that awareness, and then eventually the symptoms do disappear. Okay, but it does take a strong practice and a strong willingness. And of course, if you're in the early stages, when you're just getting honest with yourself about, hey, maybe I drink too much, or I'm smoking a lot of pot, or I'm indulging in this substance or that substance, and it's something that you're struggling with, then obviously I advocate for you to get the help and the support you need to wean off of these substances, so that you can really, really find out who you are, what you're made of, what you're feeling, what you believe, and how strong and powerful you truly are to be able to heal yourself from the symptoms that you've likely been avoiding most of your life. Okay. And I can speak from personal experience. I have so much empathy and compassion. It's so ingrained in our society too, to just kind of like pop something, take something, here's this, here's that. We go into the medical community, and it's easier to get a prescription than it is to have a deep and meaningful conversation about what it is that you're feeling, right? And so no judgment. It's just the way that our world is set up, our society is set up, and you have a choice in terms of what you feel you need that's going to help you heal. And there are so many alternative modalities available to us as human beings. There are so many things that we can dabble in, that we can experiment with. Trust your body's intuition. And again, in order to start, we gotta hit the reset button. In order to start from ground zero, start eliminating mood altering substances. Even eliminate caffeine if you can, because caffeine goes right to our brains. It gives us that heightened sense of excitedness, and it can create some angst, even a sense of rage, right? Because our bodies are tired. We're drinking the caffeine because our bodies are tired. And so instead of resting, we're overstimulating our nervous system so we can keep going. And this has long-term consequences to our overall health and well-being. Not only are we not getting our need for rest met, but in not getting that need met, it's affecting our mental health, it's affecting our physical health, and it's creating emotional symptoms that we could likely avoid if we would just listen to our bodies and be willing to meet those needs. Okay, so anything that is overstimulating, that is creating an altered sense of self, is disconnecting you from the truth of who you are, the truth of yourself, the truth of whatever it is you're experiencing. And it's preventing you from really being able to feel into what your body needs, what your mind needs, what your heart needs, in order to feel well inside. And keep in mind, we do the things we do not because we want to check out necessarily. For most of us, it's really just because we want to feel well inside. And so there are other methods of feeling well inside that are purist, that are holistic, and that are grounded, and that are centered in allowing you to experience health and vitality. And of course, in more advanced practices, connection to source, a connection to your intuition, and a really deep listening. And for those of us that really want to be guided in life, we need to be clear. You need to be clear in order to be in connection with your higher self, with source consciousness, and with all of the tools that are available to us as human beings in order to manifest a life that we love. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please always feel free to leave them at the bottom of this video. And check out the link to register for my upcoming self-mastery course at the end of this month. It is a 6-week immersive community class where I will be going through all of the principles of self-mastery. It's my honor to have you there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.